Hey, my name's Wayne. I'm a missionary with Church Missions Network here in Malawi, Africa. And in today's video, we're going to teach you some of the key words and phrases that you'll need to know when you come to Malawi, Africa. Now, here in Malawi, the Chichewa people are a very conservative and very honor-driven culture. And so any way or any time that we can give honor to the people and to the culture, it's a big deal and it opens many doors. And so what we want to do today is kind of take you through some of the words that you'll use on a routine basis and some of the phrases that you'll get to use and get to practice as you're out in the villages. Now, we don't expect you to be fluent. And actually, even if you mess it up, the Malawian people just love the fact that you tried to speak their language. Now, because it is an honors culture, when you speak their language or try to speak their language, you're showing honor and respect to the culture. And the other thing that you're doing is you're showing that you're not trying to put your culture onto them and that you're not coming from a place of superiority, but from a place of servitude and partnership, because you are trying to speak to them in their native language. And so what we want to do is kind of take you through some of these phrases, and then we'll kind of take you through a general greeting exchange. I'll get Amy in here, my wife, and we'll kind of do a formal exchange so you kind of see it. And so with all that being said, let's look at some of these words. And so on the side of the screen, you're going to see some of these words. And what I have done is I've actually got the word and then italicized how to break the word down. Now, one of the great things about Chichewa, it sounds exactly like it's spelled. There's no fancy rules about if it's this letter before this letter, then it's this sound. Nope. It sounds exactly like it's spelled. Now, some of the things you do have to understand about the Chichewa language is they put letters together in English that we wouldn't. And so your tongue is probably going to have a hard time saying some of these words, because some of these words you're going to notice that you've never seen these two letters next to each other, but we'll work through that. Now, the other thing that I have to tell you is the CH does make the ch sound like in English. The PH, however, does not make the f sound. It makes p. It actually makes the P and the H sound together. And so we'll kind of walk through some of that stuff as we go, but practice is key. So as we walk through these words and we kind of talk to you a little bit about them, listen to how they're said, see how we've broken them down, and then just practice them. And the more you practice, the better that tongue is going to relax and the more natural sounding the Chichewa language will be. So with that being said, let's go through some of these words. So the first word that you're going to see is thank you. Thank you is a very easy word. Zikomo. Z-I-Z-K-O-Mo. Zikomo. So thank you. Zikomo. Now, thank you very much is Zikomo Kwambiri. Now, Kwambiri is a little bit harder word, but if you break it down, it's just as simple. So we've got Zikomo, and then we have Kwam Biri. You hear the B-I-R-I, Biri. And so to say thank you very much, it's Zikomo Kwambiri. And so you would say thank you very much anytime you are addressing anyone who would have authority. So a chief, a pastor, this is a sign of respect. And so anytime that there is a chief or anybody who you might need, that you think needs to have respect, it's always acceptable to say Zikomo Kwambiri, which just means thank you very much. Now, the next word is please. And that word is simply chonde. C-H-O-N, chon, D-E-de, chonde. That's how we say please. Sorry, this one you'll probably use a lot, so I would suggest put a little bit of practice into this one. Because when you say something wrong, you can always say pepani. And when you say pepani, they are going to laugh. Not because of you've said something wrong, but because you have apologized for saying something wrong. And they're going to laugh simply because, well, they thank you for trying. And so pay pani, P-E, pay, P-A-N-I, pani, pay pani, sorry. The next word you'll hear a lot, which is mulungu. And that's how we say God in Chichewa. Mu, lung, gu is how we say God. Christ, Jesus, that one's easy. Yesu. Yesu. Now, you'll also hear pray, and that is pimpera. And this is where I tell you that PH does not make the F sound, it makes P. And so, pim, pe, ra, pimpera. That's how we say pray. This one is going to be important too, because you might have to find one. And you'll need to know how to say this word, chimbudzi. Now, this one is a little bit hard because you got a DZ in there, but it's simple. Chimbudzi. Chimbudzi. And that's how we say toilet. So if you're out in the village, all you have to do is look to someone and just say chimbudzi, and they will point you to the nearest chimbudzi. All right. If we keep scrolling down, we're going to get to some simple greetings. Wawa, that's how one adult greets another adult very informally. And so you might hear, as people are passing, you just hear a simple wawa, and you'll hear it back from the other person. Now, an informal greeting to a child, if we're in a village, all you have to say is bobo, and they'll say bo. And so it's not boo-boo, it's bobo. B-O-B-O. So if you're out in the village and you see a bunch of kids, just simply say bobo, and they will answer back. All right, guys, so now we're going to move to some of the formal greetings. Right now, we're just going to do the questions and how to ask someone, how are you? How is your morning? How is your afternoon? And then we're going to go into a complete formal greeting. And this is what's going to be said 90% of the time when you meet someone. So some of the formal ways to greet people, the most common one, especially if you don't know them, is simply mulibwanji. Now, muli, M-U-L-I, muli, bwanji, bwanji, mulibwanji, which simply means how are you? Now, the next one we simply say in the morning, which is madzuka bwanji. So, moi, zuka, madzuka bwanji. And that basically means how did you wake up? And so this is the term we use in the morning when we see someone. In the afternoon, we simply say matswela bwanji. So, ma, swe, la, matswela bwanji. How is your afternoon? These are the common greetings you'll hear when you come up to people. But in order for you to understand exactly how everything is going to go, I want to show you a complete formal greeting, and you'll use this a majority of the time when you meet people. Matsuela Madzuka, that's more of a greeting once you know someone. If you're a stranger or you're not very accustomed or acquainted with them, you'll simply use the mulibwanji greeting. And when you do that, there is a exchange back and forth for this greeting. And so what I've done is I've asked Amy to come in, and we're going to do this back and forth. We're going to do it actually 2 times. We're going to do it one time where Amy is person 1, I'm person 2, and then we'll do it again where I'm person 1 and Amy is person 2. So you can kind of see how that interaction goes. And so we'll walk through it one time, and then we'll kind of see how that exchange goes. So person 1 simply asks, mulibwanji, and that simply means, how are you? Person 2 then says, ndili bueno, kaya inu. Ndili refers to you. So you're saying, I am good, how are you? And so once you ask the person, how are you? Then the first person responds back, Dili bueno, zikomo. And then zikomo. And so it's just a very formal back and forth greeting each other. And so now that we've kind of walked through it, me and Amy will go through it once one way, once the other, just so you can see how that interaction happens and so that you can practice with someone back in the US. All right, guys, so I've invited Amy in here really quick just so that we can kind of go through a very formal exchange with two people. So that way you can kind of see exactly what it looks like. Now, because the camera frame's so close together, Amy and I are not going to be able to look at each other, but you'll be able to hear what that dialogue sounds like as we do a very formal, complete greeting. And so we're going to do it two different ways. We'll do the first one where I will be person one, and then we'll do it again where Amy is person one. And so that way you can hear how it sounds both ways. And I would suggest that you practice both ways because you might be the first one there to greet someone, or if someone's very excited, they're going to come up to you and greet you first. And so it's really good to know how to do it both ways. So that way you're not surprised and you can actually either ask them how they're doing or answer them when they ask you how you are doing. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and start with me being the first person asking the question. So here we go. Muribwanji.
Ndili bwino kayenu.
Dili bueno. Zikomo.
Zikomo.
And so that's a very simple exchange. And then I'll let you hear it the other way.
Muli bwanji.
Dili bueno. Gainu.
Ndili bwino zikomo.
Zikomo. And so that's just a very simple formal exchange that you are going to hear every day when you're out in the village. So if someone comes up to you and says, Mulibwanji, then be prepared to say, Ndili bueno gainu. And if you're the first one to say it, Mulibwanji, and they say, Ndili bueno gainu, then be ready to say, Ndili bueno zikomo. So guys, that's a very formal, complete formal greeting that you can use and practice with someone in your family or a friend, so that way you can be very used to it. So that way, when someone comes up and asks you in Chichewa, Mulibwanji, without even thinking, you could be able to say, Dili bueno, gayainu. All right, guys, thanks for watching this part of the video. When we come back, we're going to do two very simple sentences that will really change the way people listen to your gospel presentation. So give us just a minute and we'll be right back. All right, guys, the very last thing that I want us to look at are two very simple sentences that will really help you engage the Chichewa people when you give your gospel presentation. If you can start your gospel presentation with these two very simple Chichewa sentences, I promise you the people in the village will sit up and listen because you have started speaking in Chichewa. And if you don't speak any Chichewa after that, they will at least know that you have tried to speak their language, you have learned a few sentences, and because of that, they think that what you have to say must be very important, and so they will want to listen. And so I want to take you through these two very simple sentences that will help you when you get ready to share the gospel. The first one is just simply how to say your name. And the way we say that is Nzinalanga Ndi Wayne. Zina, Langa, Ndi, and then your name. Zina Langa Ndi Wayne. And so that's how we say, my name is Wayne. The next thing that we're going to learn how to say is, I am from. Now, this word's a little bit harder. We just have to break it down. And so it's actually Dima Chokera. That's one word in Chichewa, but three in English. So Ndi is I, Ma means continuous, Chokera from. So I am from. So Ndi Ma Chokera. Ndi Ma Chokera, who, Texas. Ndi Ma Chokera, who, United States. If you can learn how to say those two sentences, how to say your name and where you're from, I promise you it changes everything because you have shown them the respect of speaking to them in their own language. And so the way that we're going to say these first two sentences is simply Zinalanga and D Wayne and D Machokera ku United States. Practice, practice, practice. That's the only way that this gets better. That's the only way that your English tongue loosens up to speak Chichewa is just by simply practicing. Guys, we look forward to seeing you. We've already started the work on the ground. We've already contacted pastors. We have found the areas that the gospel needs to go. We are just simply waiting for you. We can't wait to have you at our house so that we can get you to be part of the ministry and what God is doing here in Malawi, Africa. So, as you're getting ready, as you're packing, as you're praying, as you're reading your Bible, as you're doing your quiet time, practice these words. Practice these sentences, practice these greetings, because all of that will play into taking the gospel to the lost in Malawi. Guys, thank y'all again. I can't wait to see you. And with that being said, Tionana.